Minister for Business.
Madam Speaker, I rise to deliver the Ministerial report on backing small business notified on the 13th of October 2025. Madam Speaker, backing Territory businesses is in our 𝘉𝘍𝘍𝘀 CLP government's DNA. There is no question that small business, which comprises 96% of all Territory businesses, is the heart and backbone of the Territory's economy, employing tens of thousands of Territorians, driving innovation and strengthening our communities. They are the engine that drives growth, Madam Speaker, innovation and community prosperity across every region of the Territory. And that is why, Madam Speaker, we are backing in small business. Madam Speaker, it is October, which means October Business Month, or OBM for short, is in full swing. Established 31 years ago by the parent CLP government, OBM 2025 is delivering a packed program of events, including opportunities for business to hear from inspirational speakers, participate in focus workshops and seminars, and network with like-minded business owners. It's a practical approach to supporting our business community to build capacity, resilience and connection, and most critically, grow our economy. With the theme Play to Our Strengths, OBM 2025 has over 200 events and professional development programs being delivered across the Territory, each designed to support business to grow, innovate and collaborate. Long distances with our sometimes challenging natural weather events, for example, our monsoon season, which has the ability to adversely impact supply chains into remote locations, can drive significant differences in the cost of doing business. As well as a small jurisdiction, business growth cycles are heavily influenced by major projects, making planning a little more challenging for businesses and investors. So, Madam Speaker, that is why OBM 2025 program focuses on three key areas: digitalisation, workforce and resilience, providing practical advice to assist Territory businesses, particularly those in regional or remote areas of the Territory, to deal with those challenges. Madam Speaker, time and time again, Territorians have demonstrated that we are a jurisdiction of entrepreneurs and problem solvers who overcome adversity and challenges through innovation and at times sheer tenacity, and our government is proud of our history in supporting Territory businesses through OBM. OBM 2025 is on track to exceed the success of OBM 2024, which had 4,900 registrations for its 182 events, with 94% of participants giving the 2024 OBM a big thumbs up. But, Madam Speaker, OBM is not the only initiative of our government that supports our Territory businesses. Whether in energy, defence, tourism, agriculture or digital services, Territory businesses are open to taking on a challenge, stepping out of their comfort zones and looking for new ways to compete and expand their businesses, so it is beholden on our government to support them in their endeavours. As part of our government's commitment to support Territory business to thrive, I recently led a delegation of 20 businesses to the 2025 World Expo in Osaka to explore new markets, foster new relationships and strengthen economic ties with Japan. As well, 3 of the businesses participating in the delegation, along with 2 other Territory businesses, were selected as suppliers to the Australian Pavilion, an incredible achievement. Even more exciting, Madam Speaker, a number of the businesses who participated in the delegation have reported they are now in discussions to export their products to Japan. Whilst early days, this is an incredible outcome. The success stories of these businesses, from brewers and artists in Alice Springs to exporters in Darwin, and their willingness to step outside their comfort zones, proudly putting the Territory on display on the world stage at Osaka World Expo 2025 is a clear demonstration of Territorians' entrepreneurial spirit and the competitiveness of Territory businesses' products and services. Madam Speaker, our priority in supporting small business is plain and simple. Make the Territory the best place to do business, a place where business can thrive and businesses can play to their strengths and be competitive, where business is regulated only where needed and sensibly, where payroll taxes encourage businesses to grow and train their team, where they can find the workers they need, and where there is connectivity and infrastructure that levels the playing field in aviation, digital, roads and energy and water inputs, where opportunities are unlocked for businesses to capture. Madam Speaker, to deliver on our vision of being the best place to do business, a whole-of-government approach that enables business to grow, invest and play to its strengths has been embraced. Most Territory enterprises are lean, hands-on operations. More than half are sole traders and partnerships, while a quarter employ only between 1 and 4 staff, and just 4% employ more than 20 workers. The profile of Territory businesses underscores the importance of targeted programs that reduce administrative burden, support digital adoption, and create conditions for growth. Over-regulation is one of the greatest barriers to growth for small business. It was therefore critical, Madam Speaker, that regulatory processes be reviewed to ensure compliance requirements were proportionate, predictable and transparent. That is why our government established the Approvals Fast Track Task Force in November 2024 to report back to government in June 2025. The task force found that complex and inconsistent regulatory processes across government added cost and delays without improving community outcomes. 70 recommendations for improvement were made, with 60 accepted to be implemented by our government and the remaining 10 accepted in principle. Of the 60 accepted, 48 will be implemented by the end of the current financial year. Evidence our government acts decisively. Madam Speaker, we are also cutting red tape for our incorporated associations through a tiered reform of the Associations Act 2003 and delivering governance training that builds capacity in the not-for-profit sector. We are applying a risk-based approach to regulation, focusing resources on higher-risk activities and reducing requirements for low-risk ones. Agencies are being directed to simplify forms, enable electronic lodgement and publish clear timeframes, and have been tasked with reducing approval timeframes for business-related applications by 50%. Madam Speaker, making the Territory the best place to do business also means ensuring Territory businesses win their fair share of government work. To support that, we are undertaking the most comprehensive procurement reforms in over a decade, simplifying processes, reducing red tape and improving feedback to tenderers. The first tranche of reforms went live on 1 October 2025, streamlining procurement under new Tier 1 and Tier 2 thresholds for low risk, readily available and commonly used goods and services, modernising procurement, making it easier, faster and, most importantly, fairer to do business in the Territory and putting Territory businesses first. We have also appointed the new Territory Procurement Champion who will back local businesses, resolve complaints independently and help drive more local contracts. Madam Speaker, a competitive business environment requires a competitive tax setting that supports, not stifles, growth. For small enterprises, even modest changes in payroll licence or compliance costs can determine whether a business hires another worker, invests in new equipment, or simply stays afloat. A competitive tax environment will ensure the Northern Territory remains the best place to do business, which is why we increased the payroll tax threshold to $2.5 million and introduced full payroll tax exemptions for eligible apprentices and trainees, directly supporting local skills development and helping employers take on and train young Territorians. Madam Speaker, this threshold, the highest in the nation, ensures that around 2/3 of Territory employers pay no payroll tax at all. For those above the threshold, the rate remains among the lowest in the country, providing certainty for businesses planning to expand their workforce. This policy directly rewards job creation and skills investment and complements our investment in vocational pathways and the workforce strategy, ensuring businesses are not penalised for investing in people. Madam Speaker, in addition to payroll tax relief, our government continues to review licence and regulatory fees to remove unnecessary duplication and reduce costs for small operators. Through targeted fee waivers during business startup phases and digital transformation of licence renewals, we are simplifying compliance and improving cash flow for small business. We are also delivering a range of initiatives to assist businesses to improve their competitiveness and resilience. The Territory Business Advisors Network provides practical guidelines to thousands of enterprises each year, ensuring that help is local, timely and free. Madam Speaker, the Aboriginal Business Development Program and partnerships with regional organisations are supporting enterprises that combine economic independence with cultural heritage and local employment. This is economic empowerment in practice. We are also supporting innovation and productivity through targeted grants and partnerships. During 24-25, the Business Acceleration Program assisted 47 CEOs to identify growth opportunities and overcome business challenges. Madam Speaker, together they forecasted 44% higher revenue and 15% more jobs. 9 Business Innovation Program grants were awarded, projecting $383 million in revenue growth and 336 new jobs. Our Business Growth Program provided $574,000 to 107 firms to expand operations, building capacity and creating jobs in every region. Madam Speaker, we are fostering innovation ecosystems through initiatives such as the Array and the Horizon Angel Investment Network, linking Territory startups with investors and mentoring. Through our partnership with the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Centre, we are funding 16 local projects worth $8.75 million, building high-value manufacturing capacity and creating skilled jobs. Circular economy programs are delivering recycling infrastructure valued at more than $9 million across urban and regional centres, diverting 75,000 tonnes of waste from landfill and supporting new industry growth. Madam Speaker, these projects show how innovation and sustainability can go hand in hand. We are also changing culture. A government that enables business must replace no unless proven with yes if it's safe. Agencies have started implementing performance standards for responsiveness and training officers to provide facilitative advice rather than procedural barriers. Madam Speaker, a thriving small business sector needs a capable and available workforce. To that end, we have established the Office of Workforce Development to coordinate planning across industry, training providers and government. We are also connecting local people with local jobs. We have delivered and boosted the Worker Connect platform, supporting a talent pool of more than 16,000 workers and 690 territory employers. We have prepared community workforce plans to inform stakeholders on 9 remote community clusters in Central Australia. These plans provide information on workforce development, job outcomes, remote training delivery needs, remote training hubs and mobile training unit activations. Madam Speaker, our government continues to invest in infrastructure that reduces costs and expands opportunity. By improving logistics and reducing transport costs, we give small businesses a fairer playing field. Enabling infrastructure in partnership with industry for regional supply chains, freight corridors, energy networks and industrial precincts will unlock investment in manufacturing, agriculture and critical minerals. For small business, connectivity, physical and digital, is not a luxury, it is an operating necessity. Digital connectivity is being strengthened through collaborations with Telstra, Google and NextDC, with projects such as the $400 million Darwin-Adelaide fibre link and the 7-megawatt NextDC data centre providing critical infrastructure for the digital economy. Madam Speaker, our work in increasing connectivity continues, with the Territory Aviation Attraction Scheme being expanded through to 2028. This underpins new flight routes and boosts market access. Madam Speaker, our support for small business is outward-looking. Trade and investment are integral to diversification and resilience, and to this end, our 𝘉𝘢𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 government is actively connecting local enterprises with new markets through delegations and partnerships across Asia and the Pacific. Our Trade, Investment and Opportunities Division is supporting 41 active investors and a private sector pipeline of 75 projects which are valued at $119 billion. These investments have the potential to support 19,000 construction jobs and 6,600 ongoing positions. 2 co-investments through the Paspalis Fund, Salty Games and Go Locum illustrate how government partnerships can catalyse innovation and export growth. We provide pre- and post-market entry support through the Trade Start Advisor program to troubleshoot challenges and refine market entry strategies. Madam Speaker, finally, it would be remiss of me not to thank the amazing team at the Department of Trade, Business and Asian Relations, who have embraced our government's agenda and are working tirelessly to make the Territory the best place to do business, where a business can be competitive, where there is connectivity and infrastructure that levels the playing field, and opportunities are unlocked for businesses to capture. Madam Speaker, our support for small business is absolute, and the future for small business in the Territory, as we work together with them to rebuild our economy, has never looked better.
Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I welcome the report by the Minister to the House. Madam Speaker, small businesses are the absolute backbone of our economy, making up to nearly 95% of all businesses across the Northern Territory. Behind each of these businesses are Territorians, individuals, mums and dads, families, friends, the business partners who make it all work, who have displayed enormous drive, ambition and vision to set their own path. Starting a business, as many people in this House know, comes with enormous risk. You're putting yourself on the line, your finances, your reputation to provide a service to the community. And it does take courage. It takes hard work and it takes commitment to excellence. Right across our communities, we have Territorians who have taken the significant step of setting up their own enterprise. Each has their own story to tell and how they got started, the challenges they've faced, and what drives them every day to continue. They are stories of tenacity, of resilience, and seeing vision through the enterprise of hard work. When you combine all of those stories, Madam Speaker, across the Territory, you start to really build a picture of the beating heart of the Territory's economy. From the cafe owner who remembers your order every day, to the tradie who turns up promptly to your house and finds that bathroom leak that's been driving you mad, to the graphic designer who turns to your urgent job around as quickly as they can, to the training provider who helps you to skill up to take that next step in your career in business. Territorians have been going above and beyond to provide quality services for fellow Territorians, quality advice and quality support across the NT. These are Territorians who don't look for a handout, but governments do play an incredibly important role in supporting our businesses to thrive. And Madam Speaker, whether that's supporting them to take their first step, taking their next step to grow their business, or removing any of the barriers in the way of the success that government has the ability to do. This means ensuring that we have a pro-small business regime here in the Territory, where businesses can access well-targeted business growth support or advice on how to navigate the regulatory environment, or where investment in infrastructure and projects is strategic and enables our businesses to thrive no matter where they're located. It is critical that the government keeps an eye on the ball, Madam Speaker, when it comes to looking across our key sectors, from construction to mining to service industry to tourism to agriculture to defence and to retail. All of them have their own unique needs to context, which requires the government to work in partnership with our businesses and big industry in the Territory to listen to what they're actually telling them. I acknowledge that this government's decision to increase the payroll tax-free threshold for businesses was a good move and one that has been very much supported across the business community. But there are a number of decisions this government has made that flies in the face of the rhetoric around supporting small business, in particular in our regional and remote communities. Alice Springs, Madam Speaker. It is pretty rich for the government this week to then stick their heads up to talk about supporting small businesses in the very same week that they have ripped phenomenal amount of funding and a huge project out of Alice Springs. Just a couple of days after the whole government was in Alice Springs to do it from afar in Darwin on the radio is an absolutely disrespectful move from the CLP. So many jobs and businesses, Madam Speaker, have now been lost to the cause. All of the many years that this government has now just thrown down the girdler, and it's just to catch that next headline, unfortunately. The CLP just don't get that in order to grow the economy, particularly in a regional place like Alice Springs, to allow our small businesses to survive, but also to thrive, there needs to be a plan. You don't need another media release or Facebook post. You need a plan, CLP, a vision, some idea of where you would actually like to take the Territory, particularly an important part of the Territory like Central Australia. This lot, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, don't have any of that, and there is nowhere more obvious that is in plain sight than the lack of plan for Alice Springs. And I would be gladly corrected if the CLP can provide a plan for Central Australia, rebuilding the economy for Central Australia. They haven't done it in the 12 months. I'd be very happy to be corrected if they're going to do that work or not, but they have not done it in the last 12 months. Imagine simply taking money out of the art gallery project without an alternative plan for the town in place. And Madam Speaker, just acknowledging your advocacy in wanting to see this project, but also the disappointment of not having anything. So it's just, we're not doing the project, but we're not diverting or transferring or looking at something else that we can put our energy and efforts to as a government. That has probably been the kicker in this decision, Madam Speaker. The disappointment of cutting the project via radio by the Treasurer and Alice Springs member himself on the radio without the guts to face the people of Alice Springs, but to not have an alternative plan. That's probably the icing on the very sour cake, Madam Speaker. What have small businesses said about this decision? Well, they're not happy. We know that, Madam Speaker, and many have spoken out already. And I think the lack of disrespect, particularly when we look at the Tourism Minister, Marie-Claire Boothby, yesterday in her question time answer in what else is going to happen for Alice Springs, and just purely dismissed the importance of providing an answer, providing a response to the third largest population in the Northern Territory, in being Alice Springs, Madam Speaker. Perhaps what they're saying is the gallery would have been everything for the town, and it definitely would have been an amazing game changer. And I absolutely acknowledge, Madam Speaker, that the Labor delays have meant that this project has not gotten into the ground. Doesn't mean you should give up on the people of Alice Springs, Madam Speaker. I think that has been very, very clear. We cannot change the past, but what the CLP have done, Madam Speaker, is darken the future of Alice Springs and Central Australia and the economy. The small businesses who I see some of them smirking, Madam Speaker, the small businesses who've literally made their plans 2 or 3 years ago to invest in buying a property, to move locations, to really capitalise on that game-changing project. Where are they now? So I would love to hear myself be corrected from any one of the CLP members who are going to contribute now. Have you met with those small businesses and said, sorry, we've axed this massive plan, we do have a plan, here's our plan, and sorry that you've wasted 2 or 3 years of pre-planning your future around your business, around your livelihood, because we've just decided to make this radio announcement because we're too scared to do the hard work. We're too scared of failure, so we're just not going to do anything for Alice Springs. I would love to be corrected, Madam Speaker, if they've actually bothered to go out to those small businesses to hear those stories of the years of planning those businesses have made around the future of the economy in Alice Springs, because there is nothing. They're good at putting out press releases, good at putting out Facebook posts, they're good at putting out little videos of their team dinners and their little family dinners together around the Territory, whatever. But they're not good at planning for the economy, something they promised, Madam Speaker, that they would do in August this last year, over 12 months ago now, when they won government. Nothing for Alice Springs, Madam Speaker. Need I say more? Madam Speaker, because Alice Springs has now been abandoned, the business community is also feeling the pinch. So all I can say in seeing and hearing the disappointment is please, please, please go and make a plan for Alice Springs, because you haven't yet shown the people of Alice Springs what your vision is for Central Australia. Madam Speaker, turning to Arnhem Land, and I know residents in 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 are extremely concerned. They have been left in the dark about the CLP's lack of care and attention to a plan for 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 post-mining. They should be absolutely disgraced by themselves, Madam Speaker, because they have done nothing. They have not talked about 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏, they've not talked about East Arnhem Land. So what are they doing? What are they doing for a large region of the Northern Territory, for their economic development, for the small businesses that operate in 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 and the surrounding communities in East Arnhem Land? And I have no doubt, Madam Speaker, that other members of the Gove Peninsula Future Reference Group are doing their bit, but we know that the government is certainly dropping the ball when it comes to 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 and the transition there. They have cut funding out of the project, and they've also cut funding out of the 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 township. So very concerned that they are running away from any responsibility from 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏 altogether, Madam Speaker. The CLP needs to come clean with traditional owners who have had small businesses. Just in the last week, Madam Speaker, 2 very esteemed Aboriginal businesses from East Arnhem have won a Chamber of Commerce Award, and also last night the Black Business Awards. So, Madam Speaker, this is an economically important part of the Northern Territory. Again, nothing from the CLP when it comes to the future planning of the economy for 𝘉𝘀𝘭𝘏. And it would be completely devastating if for the entire Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, if the government turned their back on businesses and the communities in East Arnhem Land, and I strongly encourage them not to do this. Madam Speaker, turning to Jabiru, we know that sadly the CLP has bad form when it comes to turning their back on our regions, and Jabiru is one unfortunate example of what they have done in the past. Jabiru and Kakadu, Madam Speaker, they had money ripped out without warning, without consultation, without even a follow-up visit to tell people these big decisions that will affect the future of our small businesses and the community out in 𝘉𝘢 and that region, Madam Speaker, have now been put on the back burner and completely dismissed. When we talk about the transformation of 𝘉𝘢 from the mining town it was to the ecologically sustainable tourism town that it is planning to be, without warning, Madam Speaker, $20 million pulled out of the Binning Resource Centre that was intended for central part of new tourism and offering the town a way forward into that tourism hub, a service delivery hub. The transition project in 𝘉𝘢, another one the CLP has dropped the ball. And guess what? They can go out to 𝘉𝘢 pretty easily. It's only 2 hours from Darwin. That's where they all sit, and that's all they care about is Darwin and Palmerston. So 2 hours drive on a double-lane bitumen road, Madam Speaker. They can go out. They can do it at a day trip. They don't even have to stay overnight. They can go out to 𝘉𝘢. They can actually talk to people, talk to the businesses, not just in the township, but in the park, and go and find out what your government needs to do to support them. Because we're talking about micro-economies and economies becoming of scale when it comes to regional and remote opportunities. That is another one that you've dropped the ball on. So please take that up. Go out, listen to yourself. I know the member for Arafura would be very keen to give you some contacts where you can go out and do your work and your homework properly. I can see the member for Barclay is interested. He'll go out. He's not afraid to travel on the bush, whether it's a dirt road or a bitumen road. But the rest of them, let's see if they'll take it up, Madam Speaker. And I'm not sure, Madam Speaker, if the Minister has bothered to go out to 𝘉𝘢 when she talks about small businesses. So don't even get me started on cutting out the 𝘉𝘢𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 Health Clinic, the $20 million project, because that is an absolute disgrace. When we talk about construction, Madam Speaker, one of the biggest industries in the Northern Territory that supports hundreds of other businesses and thousands of Territory jobs, the construction industry is the biggest loser when it comes to the government's $1 billion cut from the infrastructure budget. For small businesses, $1 billion of work, Madam Speaker, it's gone. That's it. No opportunity to grow, to enhance, to sustain your business. $1 billion gone. So local jobs have been affected, Madam Speaker, and more local jobs in small businesses that supply, the supply and demand chain, Madam Speaker, has also been impacted. But the short-sightedness of the CLP and, oh, they know better than every single other person who works in the industry, who is an expert in their field, who runs a business. No, they know better, so they don't recognise the impact that they've made from this massive decision. I know that those in the sector, Madam Speaker, in the construction sector have been waiting for communication from the government about what has been significantly downsized when it comes to the capital works program. We know they don't care about the bush because they cut a lot of projects from the bush, so that's an easy one for them to defend because all other than 3 or 4 of them live outside of Darwin, so that's an easy one for them not to care about. But what they haven't done, Madam Speaker, and I've been talking with people in the construction industry over the last couple of weeks, is explain what the process will be, what the impact will be for their businesses if the government doesn't have a pipeline of works when it comes to their core business, their bread and butter in the construction industry. So I would very much hope that the government starts to get their skates on and answer to the construction industry when it comes to that. It's pretty critical, Madam Speaker, when you're talking up backing small businesses, being honest, transparent, accountable, having integrity, building relationships, and then not actually go out and doing it. So the construction industry is very much quite in a standpoint. I know the CLP loves their favourite line, you know, we will not accept the status quo. Well, you're not, because you're actually ripping money out. So the status quo is going down, unfortunately, for the construction industry. So we know the local sourcing of materials makes a huge difference when we come to the demand of construction, sand, crushed rock, gravel, on the rise for housing and road projects when there are actually projects from the government. And it's critical that these materials are of the highest quality and that they can withstand our harsh conditions and extreme weather. So enabling the industry for our construction sector, Madam Speaker, it is incumbent on government to ensure businesses are able to source these materials for their construction projects and they have a pipeline of works to be able to plan for, because that means, do you keep your 10 people on or do you lay them off? Like, that's a huge, huge impact on the Territory's economy. Do you keep the 3 people on your business, or do you let one of them go? That affects an individual, it affects a family, it affects the economy here in the Territory. If you do not support the small business jobs, it can impact all the other businesses and service deliveries and providers of other sources, Madam Speaker, when it comes to the impact across the Territory community. Tourism and hospitality sector, Madam Speaker, another critical economic driver here in the Northern Territory. The Territory has one of the highest proportions of employing tourism businesses and the share of total employing businesses in Australia, Madam Speaker. And these businesses range from large firms to local micro-tourism providers who offer that authentic Territory experience that we all know and love. Territory has more than 2,500 tourism-related businesses, and of these, about half are considered small or micro businesses. From offering escapes to our iconic and world-class assets like Kakadu and Litchfield National Park, to our beautiful overnight stays in some of the most remotest parts of the Territory, like Banu Banu in East Arnhem Land, these offer real Territory experiences which are special. The sector supports a number of jobs, and particularly small Aboriginal businesses, those on country or in town, Madam Speaker, and being able to offer an insight into the oldest continuous living culture in the world. Truly unique experience that we know is the major drawcard for tourism in the Northern Territory. Many of these businesses, Madam Speaker, are family run. They play an important role in their communities. And one business that was awarded last night in the Black Business Awards was 𝘉𝘢𝘏𝘏 Homeland's tourism business, a Yolngu business run by Timmy and his family. Fantastic story, a lot of yidijama, hard work, big work to be able to have a absolutely amazing tourism product. So please get off the dirt track, get off the bitumen and onto the dirt track to the CLP government. Go out and support those small businesses and find out what else you need to do to support our businesses, particularly in our very remote settings. Individually, Madam Speaker, they don't have big buying power, some of these small businesses, but to scale out and see that our businesses do impact each other in a very small setting is so unique here in the Territory. So we want to make sure that the CLP government, again, focuses on how they can boost our small businesses and support them rather than impacting them by cutting out things like $1 billion in the infrastructure budget, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the CLP are masters at press releases and spin. Just today there was a report around the cost of living pressures and having a significant impact on Territory businesses and Territory individuals and families. So we want to make sure the CLP doesn't just hide its head in the sand and think that things are going to get better on their own, or hide away and then not answer questions around what they're doing. There are things like, as I acknowledge, the payroll tax scheme, which has been welcomed, but there's much more to do, Madam Speaker. We want to hear what more of those plans are so we can share, celebrate and challenge any of those plans, if there are plans, so we can see the best for our Territory businesses. Because, Madam Speaker, if we see our small Territory businesses thrive, it is only going to make a positive impact for the rest of our Territory economy. We know that the budget around power prices makes an impact, all those overhead costs. Madam Speaker, I know you're a business owner as well. You understand the ebbs and flow of the business world. We want to make sure that the government is doing everything they can for small businesses so that they can be the backer of small business, because at the moment they're failing to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Fanny Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand here today to affirm this government's unwavering commitment to the powerhouse of our economy, Territory business. They are the heart, the backbone and the beating pulse of prosperity here in the Northern Territory. Backing them is not just policy for us. Like the Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations said in her statement, it is in our government's DNA. Madam Speaker, it was very, very interesting to hear the Leader of the Opposition publicly state today how important small business is here in the Territory, given the damage they did to business right here in the Territory over the last 8 years of their recent term in government. Today, I am determined to speak frankly and touch on the failure of the previous Labor government to support businesses across the Territory. It is no secret that for years, Territorian entrepreneurs and workers have faced a tough environment, one marked by rising costs, workforce shortages and limited government assistance. And what did the Labor government do? They largely ignored pressing issues, and they implemented policies that simply failed to address the real needs of our business community. Under Labor's watch, business closures rose dramatically, and many small and medium enterprises struggled to stay afloat. The lack of a focused economic strategy, inadequate support for workforce development, and a failure to tackle the spiralling cost pressures left too many Territorians out of work and too many businesses closing their doors. Madam Speaker, instead of backing the very backbone of our economy, the small businesses and local entrepreneurs, the Labor government allowed uncertainty, red tape and a lack of meaningful investment that choked business potential. The Labor government's neglect extended to critical sectors, whether it was neglecting infrastructure, failing to attract investment, or not providing the incentives businesses needed to grow and create jobs. Their inability to respond effectively to the unique challenges of the Territory, from geographic remoteness to workforce shortages, ensured ongoing economic stagnation and hardship for so many. Madam Speaker, we've heard time and time again from industry bodies and business owners themselves. What was needed was a government that listened and acted, and that understood the challenges on the ground, supporting businesses with practical, relevant measures. Unfortunately, those calls went largely unanswered during Labor's tenure. Under our CLP government, with a new approach to a renewed commitment, business in the Northern Territory can look forward to real support, and we are already seeing the benefits of our action and what it's bringing to business in the Territory. This government is focused on cutting red tape, offering payroll tax relief, attracting skilled workers through improved migration programs, and investing in infrastructure that unlocks economic growth. From Darwin to Alice Springs, from the Barkly to East Arnhem, our businesses underpin jobs, spark innovation, and inspire community growth in every region. Madam Speaker, nowhere is this more evident than in the vibrant electorate of Fanny Bay. Situated in the inner northern suburbs of Darwin, Fanny Bay includes bustling commercial precincts like the Parap Shopping Village, the Avenue Shops and surrounding business area, the Coconut Grove Business Precinct, Fanny Bay Shops and East Point restaurants, the famous Mindle Beach Markets, Mindle Beach Casino and Resort, and the Darwin Botanic Gardens, just to name a few. Fanny Bay is an urban electorate that supports a diverse business community ranging from dynamic small enterprises to established service providers. Fanny Bay's business landscape reflects the Territory's broader strengths. Many enterprises are sole traders or small businesses, and they are all integral to the local economy and community vitality. These businesses contend with typical challenges such as distance and supply chain pressures, yet they thrive thanks to the entrepreneurial spirit that defines our electorate and the people behind the scenes. Madam Speaker, our government's initiatives like streamlining regulations, providing tax relief and investing heavily in connectivity infrastructure are designed to empower places like Fanny Bay. Fanny Bay stands as a shining example where economic opportunity, community lifestyle and sustainable growth intersect. By making the Northern Territory the best place to do business, we support Fanny Bay's business to remain competitive, resilient and confident amid evolving challenges. Despite distance, cost pressures and supply chain challenges, our entrepreneurs continue to prove that the NT is the best place and a place of innovation and opportunity. Madam Speaker, small businesses drive our prosperity. They create jobs, boost local investment and sustain regional communities. They make up 96% of Territory enterprises. Our business entry is higher than the national average, underscoring strong confidence and entrepreneurship across construction, real estate, professional services, transport, warehousing, health and social assistance. More than half of our small enterprises are sole traders or partnerships, and a quarter employ between 1 and 4 staff. In our regions from Central Australia to Big Rivers, small businesses literally keep towns alive. Madam Speaker, our goal is simple: make the Northern Territory the best place to do business. That means sharpening competitiveness, making regulation sensible and ensuring reliable infrastructure, and unlocking opportunities through major projects, procurement and trade. We are cutting red tape and halving approval times, pushing clear timeframes and introducing e-lodgement, Our yes if safe approach ensures decisions are fair, fast and consistent. The NT already offers Australia's most competitive payroll tax settings with the highest threshold in the nation. We support competitiveness with programs that deliver real results. These initiatives have projected hundreds of millions in revenue and created hundreds of new jobs. Our $3 million Cyber Invest and Biz Secure initiatives safeguard both digital and physical resilience. A capable and available workforce is essential. Dharma 3 is delivering skilled workers, while Worker Connect and Study NT connect employers and talent, contributing millions to our economy. Training expos and settlement assistance are ensuring workers stay and succeed. We are expanding through markets through procurement reforms and trade missions to our Asian neighbours, positioning the Territory as Australia's gateway to Asia. This investment pipeline now includes 75 projects worth $119 billion, supporting tens of thousands of jobs. New agreements on critical minerals and energy supply chains reinforce our role as a trusted partner in the Indo-Pacific. Madam Speaker, the message is clear. We are rebuilding the economy and backing Territory businesses to be competitive, connected and confident. With a population of about 6,100 electors in Fanny Bay, every business matters and every job opportunity counts. Our government's agenda ensures that from the vibrant markets of Parap to the tech innovators at the Darwin Botanic Gardens precinct, local entrepreneurs have what they need to succeed. Together, we are building a strong, connected economy with Fanny Bay as a vital part of its future. Through streamlined regulation, tax relief and investment in innovation and connectivity, we are delivering on our promise to make the Northern Territory the very best place in Australia to do business. Madam Speaker, the previous Labor governments in the Northern Territory believed in controlling every aspect of our economy and community. They expanded bureaucratic red tape, imposed heavy regulations, and sought to centralise decision-making power in government hands. They did this instead of empowering businesses and individuals to make their own choices and innovate. They chose to micromanage, stifling growth and creating uncertainty. This controlling approach hampered entrepreneurial spirit and weighed down our local economy with unnecessary constraints. True economic growth comes from trust, freedom, support, not from government trying to control every detail. Madam Speaker, again, our message is clear. Business in the Northern Territory deserve more than lip service. They deserve a government that backs them fully, delivers certainty and delivers security. That is the future we are building, a future the previous Labor government failed to provide. Thank you.
Member for Namatjira and Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank Minister Cole for highlighting the often unsung heroes of our economy, our small business owners. They are the risk takers, they are the innovators, and they're the doers, working hard to make a great life and get ahead for themselves and their families. And as Treasurer, I'm acutely aware that small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy. The nearly 17,000 of them that call the Northern Territory home. Small businesses matter to this government, Madam Speaker, and when the CLP was elected, the Territory was in disarray. Small businesses were bearing the brunt of a broken economy where the only things booming were crime and incompetence. It was a sad state of affairs that had to change fast, and change it did, Madam Speaker, under a CLP government. Labor's idea of economic growth was taxing business out of existence. Our plan is growing businesses, creating jobs and investing in the Territory's future. And Madam Speaker, we started with staff. It's hard enough to find and hire great staff, and it makes no sense adding another tax barrier. And I know that because my constituents were loud and clear. Get out of our way to hire. So the CLP did what made the biggest impact, giving NT businesses the highest payroll tax-free threshold in Australia. Madam Speaker, we increased it from $1.5 million to $2.5 million, and this was a game changer for many businesses and meant one less barrier to deal with. And as a result, Madam Speaker, 2/3 of businesses with wages below $2.5 million pay zero payroll tax. And Madam Speaker, while we're at it, we provided full exemptions for apprentices and trainees. Madam Speaker, we are making the Territory the place to be. Right now, there's thousands of people asking themselves where they can live for better opportunities and lifestyles. And Madam Speaker, we're out there broadcasting out loud and clear every day. Come to the Territory, come to the place of opportunity. Because, Madam Speaker, under our Rebuilding the Economy strategy, we are making it the best place in the nation to live, to work, to invest and to grow a business. And Madam Speaker, we're continuing to work hard, delivering $2 million a year on workforce attraction and skilled migration, $88 million on tourism promotion, and in some cases, hooking in travellers who have decided to call the Territory home. $120 million on training and higher education so those in the Territory can be skilled up and then provide those skills back to the Territory, helping to grow our economy and to grow small business. Our next focus, of course, Madam Speaker, was on procurement reform. We were told it was too complex, too difficult, and for time-poor businesses, it just took too long to get things done. So with a fresh approach, the CLP have modernised and simplified procurement. We've made it easier for government to buy directly from Territory businesses without a formal quote process, speeding up the time you get paid from us, and we've increased the purchasing caps to sensible levels. Tier 1 moves from $15,000 to $50,000, and Tier 2 moves from $100,000 to $200,000, Madam Speaker. And this reflects the changing scope and dynamic of the Territory's economy and purchasing. And this was very, very much long overdue and will make things easier for businesses to work with government and for government to procure from our local businesses. And Madam Speaker, we reduced red tape for Territory businesses and government contract managers. And we've given a voice to the Territory procurement champion, helping to drive more local outcomes. We know that under the previous government, procurement and dealing with government became very, very difficult. They loved to introduce red tape, beige tape, green tape, all sorts of colours of tape, Madam Speaker. And we're committed to removing that tape and making it easier for people to do business here in the Territory and making it easier for Territory businesses, because we were out there listening to business. We're continuing to fund new programs that help tackle the insidious effects of crime and antisocial behaviour, because unless we deal with crime and antisocial behaviour, we can't have a strong economy and we can't grow our economy. They are very, very simple fundamentals, something that the previous government didn't understand. And Madam Speaker, BizSecure continues to help Territory businesses with financial support to improve the safety and security of their facilities against break-ins and crime. And we've only got to look at what happened over the last 8 years with crime for business. I know in the 4 years that I was in opposition, the amount of businesses that came to me complaining about the crime epidemic in Alice Springs and the issues that they were forced to go through. Repeated break-ins, repeated damage were hurting their bottom line to the point they couldn't get insurance, Madam Speaker, to fix doors, to fix windows, and were having to pay that out of their own pocket. And what does that mean, Madam Speaker? That means they have to put their costs up because they can't bear those costs alone. So their costs have to increase, which then affects the average person on the street. And we talk about cost of living issues, and that was one of the things that was driving cost of living up, because business had to pay to deal with the issues of crime, and they had to pass those costs on to consumers. Then us, the consumers, had to then pay that price. And it's not just windows and doors we're helping now, Madam Speaker, but the vulnerable laptops and services powering business. And it's a shocking fact that the average cost of a cyber attack now is $50,000. And a recent high-profile corporate case shows that absolutely no one is immune. And not every small business has the resources of big industry to firewall their networks. But there is great help out there from our government and we are providing that for small business to firm up their defences. The CLP Whanokē-Aro government is backing businesses against cybercrime with the $1 million Cyber Invest Business program. Small and medium businesses can now apply for up to $10,000 to cover costs of eligible services. And this is something that hasn't been done in the Territory before. They can apply for that to strengthen cyber security or to test their business's resilience to a cyber incident. And that also includes, Madam Speaker, training for education for their staff to be better prepared for a cyber attack, because no one is immune. And on training and education, Madam Speaker, we're giving great access to ideas through October Business Month. And Madam Speaker, this year's theme, Play to Our Strengths, focuses on digitalisation, using artificial intelligence to implement technology, workforce attraction and talent retention and resilience in businesses. And Madam Speaker, this has been a resounding success, giving small businesses broad workshops and insights through to the end of October. And it's pleasing to see that the opportunities for businesses throughout the Territory and seeing them out there participating and engaging through October Business Month. And Madam Speaker, in my home of Alice Springs, I've been given great feedback on the diversity of topics covering AI, cyber support, budgeting, increasing productivity and managing staff. Madam Speaker, we're continuing to rebuild the economy. And after the economic death spiral of the former government, the Territory is now on the right path. We have the fastest growing economy in the nation. We're seeing increased investment in construction of new dwellings. We have the highest increase in loans for new dwellings anywhere in the country. It shows, Madam Speaker, that what we're doing is right. Through our homegrown and fresh start housing grants, we're getting people to come to the Territory, getting people to stay in the Territory and giving them that opportunity to build and own their first home, something that we're seeing is very, very difficult to reach in some of those southern states. We're doing the hard work here, Madam Speaker, to get people into the Territory, to grow business, to grow small business, getting people to put down roots, because we know that is what is important for the Northern Territory. Getting people to come here, getting people to live here, getting people to either start businesses or go and work for small businesses, because they are the backbone of our economy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Karama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And look, as a long-time champion of our small and medium business sector, I am really pleased and happy to speak in support of the Ministerial report, and I congratulate Minister Karl for updating the House on our government's efforts to back small business. Fantastic, fantastic. Now, as the former Deputy CEO of the NT Chamber of Commerce, I've been on the public record many times, including in statements I've made in this Assembly, that I see our small to medium businesses as being the heart and soul of this economy, and I absolutely stand by that. And Madam Speaker, these businesses deserve a government that is focused on creating a business operating environment that allows them to thrive and grow, and in doing so, employ more local people and support local families. And unlike the previous Labor government, our government is focused on creating this positive business environment by delivering on our three major election commitments. And yes, we did put it there, and I'm going to pull it out again somewhere here. You'll remember our election commitments here: reducing crime, rebuilding our economy and restoring our lifestyle. All of those are interconnected. All of those actually, if we achieve those, do actually make a more positive business environment. And without going through all of our initiatives delivered so far, of which there have been many, including those highlighted by the Minister in her report, I would like to remind the House that we delivered on our specific election commitments, which have already been touched on. One of those was to remove the payroll tax for small businesses so they can create jobs and grow. and we did that by raising the payroll tax-free threshold for the first time in 13 years from 1.5 million to 2.5 million. So the Labor government didn't do anything about that. They just left it languishing. They didn't have the foresight to think about it. We also exempted apprentice and trainee wages, who will also be exempt from payroll tax as part of this new threshold, saving thousands to invest in growing territory apprenticeships and traineeships. And as the Minister also alluded to, we've sped up business approvals and have cut red tape to take away unnecessary administrative burdens and make doing business easier. That's what we need to do. What we need to do is get government out of the way and let business thrive. Madam Speaker, I've also spoken many times in this Assembly about the need for governments to have strong local procurement policies. And I am on the record for criticising the former City of Darwin Council for reducing their local content weighting from 30% to 20%. As I said in this House, if there was any level of government that needs to support local business, I believe it is local government. I can only hope that the new City Darwin Council, with new Lord Mayors and new councillors, looks to rescind this flawed decision and take a leaf out of this proactive CLP territory government and start backing our small business sector again. Madam Speaker, let me now focus on how small businesses in my electorate are going, because their views are critically important to me and I need to stay engaged and hear them, and I do. Let me go back from the outset. I can tell you the day after the election, there was absolutely a significant increase in optimism. I walked around the Karama shops on the Sunday and people were smiling. They thought, thank God, we might get back on track again. And I can tell you there were a lot of business I'd been speaking to during the campaign that were looking to close or relocate interstate, particularly if we didn't get elected. Luckily, they have decided to stay here and grow, and that is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Madam Speaker, recently I've been doing mobile offices in my electorate, going out each morning into key places. I've been down in Lachlan College down there. I've been at the Malac shops. I've been at other places up in Moray Street. And those mobile offices are great. People come and stop to me, they have a chat, but it's also some of the businesses come and talk to me. So I'm just going to relay, I was up at Moray Street and this young fella came up. I didn't actually know him at the stage, but he sent me an email. So I'm going to quote a bit out of his email. Morning, Brian. It was nice meeting you today. This is Paul from Moray Street in Karama. He said, I commend you how you stand outside in that heat, because it is pretty hot in the mornings there. And then he goes on, as mentioned, I'm just a sole trader operating a small local business. He said, happy to say business has picked up. And he said, which increasingly doubled since the Liberals came into play and your office showed up. That's his words, not mine. That's his words. And I can tell you what, I'm going to quote those in my next newsletter. I'm going to quote those because I want people to hear what the businesses are telling me. Now, he did have an issue. He's got an issue with workforce. He can't get the staff he needs and he's got a bit of an injury. He's got a lot of work on, but he can't say. And that is a challenge. Workforce is a challenge, and I know the Minister's working on that too. Now, he said, are there any sort of government help? And I said, look, I'll refer you to the Minister's agency, and I know that's gone through, so maybe they can help him with the small business champions. But that's the problem. He's got a lot of work on, but he just doesn't have enough workers. So this is a challenge we've got to get onto, and I know by getting our economy going and also creating a safer community, it'll make it easier to build our workforce up. And I think that's another one I need to talk about. The link, the interconnection with crime and making safer communities, because people want to stay. And I'm going to quote another. I did put out a Facebook post just the other day, Madam Speaker. And that was when I was asking the question of the Chief Minister about how we're going with the police and so on, and particularly around 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭𝘭 and Mlack. And the feedback from that's been really good. People come back to me. But here's one, and this is really makes me feel good. I know we've got a long way to go. We're not there. But just to get feedback like this. Thanks, Brian. 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 is feeling much safer lately. And I'm sure that other electorates around here are getting similar feedback. We are feeling safer. We've got a long way to go. But they can see the tide has turned. They can see there is a positive government that really wants them to go ahead. And so I say thank you. We will. And the other thing is they urge us to keep the course. Keep the course. Don't pander to the other willy-nillys who just want us to back off. Stay the course. We're on the right track. So finally, Madam Speaker, as you know, I walk my newsletter around every street of 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 and also get it out to Nucky Lagoon. Part of my newsletter, I'm coming up to my 4th one, which I'll be hand-delivering in November. I actually promote local businesses in my newsletter, and I want to give a big shout out of those. I've got some others coming up. I'm just in the draft of this one. But not all my businesses operate in 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 or Nucky Lagoon, but they are owned and operated by people there, families there. So let me give you a couple of examples. Pizza King, which is out in the Hibiscus. Yeah, the member for Wanguri would know that. Tessie lives in Mlack. That's where she lives. Lyndall's Hair Care, great hair care. She lives in Nucky's Lagoon. Bruce's Charcoal Chicken, out at Nightcliff. Member for Nightcliff's not here. He lives in Clemnos Drive in 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬. These are really good.
Please take your seat, Member for 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬.
Standing Order 1, I would ask you to ask the member to withdraw. You cannot state that a member is out of the chamber, and he needs to retract that statement. He mentioned that the member for Nightcliff.
Oh, look, I'll take it back. I didn't realise it was a problem.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
You withdraw? Yes.
Yeah, I'll withdraw. But as I said, this is actually in the electorate of Nightcliff. And so I give tribute to Bruce and Alex, who lives in Clemnos Drive. Very good. So these are the great things to go. And there are a whole range of other ones. Obviously, John, the affordable plumber, he's doing well. He tells me they're going great. Amarasa Cafe, set up down in Winnelly. They live in Mlack. I don't think they would have set up under a Labor government, but they have under this government because there's a positive business environment. So thank you very much. And all I can do is congratulate our smaller business sector. I congratulate the Minister. I congratulate our government for really getting behind the private sector, and this is what we need to do more of. Thank you.
Member for Blaine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm proud to rise to speak on backing small business, which is something that's in the DNA of this government, because it's in the DNA of the CLP, because we are the Territory Party. We are the party that supports the Territory. We have done for many, many years, coming on 50 years now, and I think we always will. So I'd like to start by just stating on the record that my dad was a small businessman. My mum was a teacher at Bachelor, but Dad was a farmer. So he started off in cattle, the market changed, the bottom fell out of that market, so he looked around, he pivoted, he got into chooks. This was back in the 80s, the days before, long-distance refrigerated trucking was a commodity. So he got into chooks, and I grew up, we were always feeding the chooks. Every night we were moving chooks. We were getting the dead ones. When they got too old, we'd feed them to the pigs, and when the pigs grew up, then we'd butcher them and we'd have bacon for dinner, The only thing we didn't use was the pig's squawk, the squeal. And you know what? My dad, twice a week, we had to load up his truck with all the eggs and take them up to Darwin, because back in the 80s, eggs didn't have a long shelf life. Every night when I was a kid, we were washing eggs, we were packing eggs, we were grading eggs. It was the whole family was in on it. We were always working, and we had to balance the budget, right? My dad was just constantly watching the money, you know, and he spent a lot of time away from us down on the farm because he had, you know, twice a week up to Darwin. He'd go to Fresher, he'd drop off his, you know, 10 boxes of eggs or whatever, and then he'd drive all around town. And a lot of people knew my dad, the Artois and the Chins, and a lot of the Greek people, because he'd go around to their homes and he'd drop off, you know, the seconds that he couldn't sell to Fresher to go to Woolies. You know, he'd go around to all these small businesses, people that ran cafes and, you know, and just people who had large families and they didn't want to pay the commercial rates. He'd go around and drop off their eggs, you know. So he was a big part of the community, and small business is part of the community because they have to be, you know. They're a sole trader. Their entire life is caught up in their business. If something happens to that business, if the business goes under, it's not like if you have a job and, you know, and you chuck it in and go to a different job, well, you know, you move on. Like that's not really a big deal. But if you're a small business person and your business goes under, that's heartbreaking. You know, I remember the day that when Dad had to retire, and that was really hard. And you know what? He never actually retired. The only time he kept chooks up until he actually passed away. He could never actually stop working. All he could do was just slowly scale down and slowly scale down. He never ever actually stopped working, because that's what small business does. Small business are the people who sponsor our sports teams. When I go to the Raiders and I look at the back of the players' shirts, it's covered in small businesses, you know, because they're the people who reach in their pockets and hand out, you know, like I won't name them, but you don't see very large, you know, multinational companies on there. You don't see them. But you'll see small businesses, you know. You'll see businesses like Cool Drive. They're always on there. I'd just like to make a bit of a comment. It was a bit rich of the opposition leader in her contribution to suddenly discover the importance of small business now that she's in opposition. After 8 years, the Labor Party has finally discovered the importance of small business. What a revelation, you know. 8 years of watering down the laws, crime going out of control, businesses having to turn their shop into fortresses. I still remember, actually, the stories. It was in the media. You know, this is what we have to, on this side of the chamber, rebuild and counter. After 8 years of mismanagement, businesses in Alice Springs had to trade with their doors locked, because if they left their doors open, people would run in and steal their produce. Yes, the member for Breitling remembers. I'm sure that the member for Namatjira remembers. What a shame. What a shame. Businesses having to trade with locked doors under the previous government. What a tragedy. Not under this government. Hopefully all the businesses can have their doors wide open so that customers are free to walk in, and the families who run those businesses are confident that they're not going to be taken advantage of by criminals who should be facing the consequences of the previous crimes they'd already committed, but had been released by a government that put the sensibilities of criminals before the rights of victims. I could go on. The COVID lockdowns and mandates forcing businesses, if you didn't comply with their order, you know, you couldn't go to work, had to shut down your business. The red tape that came out over and over, you know, and the compensation they said was, oh, well, we'll set up another government department to help you deal with the bureaucracy that we're going to impose on you. How about you just have a look at the red tape and go, do we really need that? Is this actually helping? Who is this helping? No one. Well, let's get rid of it. Let's have a risk-based framework. What a revelation! A risk-based framework. You know, if it's safe, say yes. You know, I know that, you know, there's a tendency to say, you know, if there's something new, oh, new things are scary. oh, hang on, I don't know if we can allow that, you know. I could go on and on, but that's because small business is not in the DNA of the Labor Party. Labor Party, they love big business. They love big business because you know what big businesses have? Unions. They have unionised members, so they love nothing more than to have a big business that can push down, you know, onto the employees, and all the employees are unionised and they all pay union fees, and then the unions go and donate to the Labor Party, and the organisers come out and they all hand out cards for the Labor Party at election time, you know. So if the Labor Party had a choice between small businesses and big businesses, they would choose a big business every time because they know they can get into bed with a big business, force them to unionise and actually drive down the wages and conditions of the employees, which has happened many times. There are many court cases where this has come out. So, but anyway, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I want to talk about small businesses in Palmerston because there's a lot of fantastic small businesses in Palmerston, and one thing about small businesses is that it's a lot easier if you are a large organisation like the government, like the Council of Palmerston, then if you use small businesses, you can be a lot more agile. If you're dealing with one large contractor and they can't fulfil it, suddenly you're in a world of pain. You know, so I've advocated to the City of Palmerston to change their landscaping procurement practice from one or two large suppliers covering the entire jurisdiction of City of Palmerston to having it broken up and using a lot more. We've got a lot of landscapers who are available in Palmerston, sole traders. You know, a guy with a trailer and a ride-on zero-turn mower, and if they break it up, and you've got a lot of these guys running around, if one of them doesn't deliver, you know what? No worries. We'll get someone else to do it. And you know what? Exactly right, member for Drysdale. And we'll have the best service. You know, we'll have the best lawns and in the whole of the Northern Territory. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I want to talk about Wilson's Landscaping. What a fantastic local small business. That's a family-run business. And you know what? They are passionate about helping Territorians because they go out of their way to help to employ people who are exiting the jail, who are exiting Dondale, to give them a chance to get started. I want to talk about Coffee Deck in Bellamac, which is getting started, a new cafe. The owners are local people, a teacher and a police officer. Good on them. Jacob Reynolds from Freedom Property, grown that business from nothing. Now he's running a real estate company all over Darwin. Fresh point, well done, Jazz, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm rising today to talk about this ministerial in relation to small businesses. I know that some people in this chamber have accused me of being anti-business. On the contrary, I speak as someone who ran my own business for more than 30 years, my own small business. I understand what running a small business means, and I now live I've always lived in, while I've been in the Northern Territory, but I now am lucky enough to be the representative in an electorate which is incredibly lucky to have a huge number of thriving small businesses and struggling small businesses who work to make our community the wonderful place it is. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of those small businesses. I reckon that in Johnston we have the best food in Darwin. Not only are we lucky enough to have Rapid Creek markets there, which is the best place to be on any Sunday ever, I reckon, but we also have in Milner, we have Vanjie's Kitchen, where you can get the best caramel flan you might ever want to have, Filipino, Caramella Patisserie, amazing Greek cakes and coffee, Memories of India, so shout out to Raj at Memories of India, who's also a great supporter of the community. and the wonderful Somi and his family at Sabatai Takeaway. The Big Bites NT Cafe and Restaurant, which shout out to them, they have the best Vietnamese iced coffee in Darwin as well, if anyone wants to try it. Salted cream iced coffee, very bad for your cholesterol, but very delicious for everything else. And the Sabine Road shops run by Leo and Hing for over 20 years, where you can get everything you need and some things you may never have heard of. There's also a halal butcher, an Indian grocery store, a massage place, a hairdresser, a tax agent, a laundromat. And all of these businesses don't just sell goods, don't just sell services, they also provide jobs, they provide connections, they provide a sense of belonging, and they support the local community. Just as we heard in this chamber today, it's not the big businesses that are supporting local communities. It's these small businesses that go out on a limb over and over again and sponsor the soccer teams, sponsor the footy teams, help kids get to where they need to go. And I you know, as the member, want to express my ongoing gratitude to them. At Rapid Creek, there's Greenies, an organic shop run by Ursula and Greenie, Happy Foodland, another iconic Darwin store run by the Lee brothers. When I checked in with them how they were feeling about safety in the community, they said, "Don't worry about us, love. We've got a cricket bat behind the desk." So just they feel safe, just so they feel they know what to do. We've got Rapid Creek Cafe with Japanese cuisine. Recently, we lost the owner of that cafe very tragically. Hey Dal, an Indian takeaway run by the wonderfully community-minded Noel and Christine, who also go out on a limb over and over again, work really hard to make sure that if someone has nothing to eat, they make sure that they have food. The Greeks Men's Club, where I get plenty of advice all the time, along with my Greek frappe, so that's the competition coffee for me in Johnston. Another halal butcher, another Pho Bistro, another great Vietnamese restaurant run by Hannah and John. Where my office is, we've got a Sri Lankan supermarket, a hairdresser, Sarah Lynn Lingerie, run by the infamous Vivian Lee, the Domino's Milner franchise, who's also works really hard to support local community, offers work to young people who need to get a leg up. Kerry's Massage, Ice Cream Dresses, where I'm very grateful to often wear the dresses, owned by Irene, who both lives and runs her business out of Johnston. There's gyms, there's M88848, a Nepalese cafe. In Jingalee, another corner shop run by Nelson Lee, another Lee, selling yappa skirts and clothing. A Tano Filipino shop, Jay's Fish and Chips, Petra's Raw Cakes. The Moyle shops, Indian grocery, visited 99% by people who are outside my electorate, because apparently it's the best Indian grocery in the top end, run by Dipla and Pradeep. People might have remembered earlier, mid last year, they experienced a ram raid, and there was quite a lot of media about that. People would be glad to know that they are now feeling like things are much better for them. In Allawa, there's Anthony's Fish and Chips, Saffron Indian Takeaway, a Euro shop which might be winning the Johnston Hot Chips competition for their hot chips, best hot chips in Darwin with feta and oregano, and Greek Bakery. Heaps more local businesses, and like the member for Currama, I spend a lot of time walking around my electorate. Every week I have a mobile office outside a different local shop. Every Sunday I'm at Rapid Creek Markets, and when I heard this ministerial was coming up, I checked in with some of them just to see if any of them had anything that they wanted me to share. And the sentiment, I have to say, was mixed. So many people did share what I think the member for Currama said, that a year ago they were feeling hopeful, but now people are saying that they feel like they're really struggling. They feel like their businesses are struggling, they feel like their customers are leaving. So I'll just quote from one small business owner who expressed what many said, and for the record, this person wanted me to also say that they were a strong and proud CLP supporter. So this is not bashing the government, but they said small businesses in the Territory are actually going backwards. There are pockets of retail that are going well, but the majority is just awful. Many of my customers are leaving Darwin because of what's going on here. I don't feel like enough is being done. So I salute the resilience of every small business owner in Johnston and beyond. And I want to recognise their hard work and commitment. I hear from this government that that's something that they want to support, and they want to support community, and small business are absolutely central to community. I agree with that. I want to make sure that whatever work we do, as people will know in this chamber, is work that recognises the needs, is for every single Territorian, so for every small business owner, for the people who are coming in and using those small businesses, building real community safety so that we can know that our communities can continue to thrive, putting things in place that mean that people aren't choosing to leave the Territory, making sure that the approaches that we're taking here in this chamber, in the laws we're making, whether it's around community safety, whether it's around community harmony, are actually based on things that we know are going to work to build a strong, thriving Northern Territory into the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for 𝘉𝘬𝘭𝘭.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I rise to speak on the Ministerial report for Trade, Business and Relations to highlight how the Country Liberals government, we're backing Territory businesses, especially local and small businesses that form the heart of our local economy. And I can actually say that as a Territory-born person, this is all I've ever known, is small businesses are the heart of our Territory. Businesses are not just numbers on a page, they're families, they're livelihoods, and they are the pulse of our communities like 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘨, 𝘉𝘬𝘴𝘪𝘯𝘭𝘭 and Muirhead. These are the suburbs where mums and dads run cafes, electricians, and are the tradies that build our homes, and the local professionals who create opportunities for all our young Territorians. Madam Speaker, small businesses make up 96% of enterprises in the Northern Territory, and when my father first came to the Northern Territory, there was 100%. So that is an amazing feat that we still have 96% of our small businesses here in the Territory. And our business entry rate is 17%, and which is double, is higher than the national average. Proof that Territorians are resilient, entrepreneurial, and optimistic about their future. In 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 and the northern suburbs alone, Madam Speaker, data shows that there's over 1,150 registered small businesses, spanning construction, real estate, healthcare, and professional services. Over half of these are sole traders and partnerships, and around a quarter employ between 1 and 4 staff, showing how vital micro businesses are to keeping our economy ticking. And Madam Speaker, this is not just about businesses, it's about people. Each of these small businesses represents a family who's chosen to back themselves, to invest in the Territory and employ fellow Territorians. Madam Speaker, some of these businesses in the 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 electorate are Chris Williams Retail and Manufacturing Jewellers, and the member for 𝘉𝘬𝘪, if you haven't got your wedding rings made, I suggest you pop along and see Chris. He'll do some wonderful handmade jewellery. Greenfields, Blooms and Gifts, Nails Paradise, 𝘉𝘂𝑎 Plumbing Proprietary Limited, Dicor Drilling, Milestones Early Learning Centre, Maria Children's Centre, Dragonfly Play and Learn Proprietary Limited, the 𝘉𝑒𝑎𝑛𝑦a News Agency, Pizza King, as the member for Karama tried to claim, but they actually cook them there on site at the Hibiscus Shopping Centre and know my regular order. The Territory Butchers, what a great example that from his Hibiscus shopping front, he's expanded over to the Oasis shopping centre himself, so that business is growing and thriving, and he could be making some more headways into the Hibiscus shopping centre, expanding there. Mudhouse Cafe, Q Framing, 𝘉𝘬𝘬𝘪𝘯𝘭 Supermarket, Estelle's Florist, the newly renovated Bill's Bar and Grill, formerly known as Dolly's, and this is just to name a few. We have franchises that are run by families from the community, such as Brumby's Bakery, H&R Block, Hibiscus Night and Day Pharmacy, and Elders Real Estate. Madam Speaker, I want to say thank you to those businesses, and thank you for continuing to invest and back your businesses to keep the economy moving and provide employment. Madam Speaker, the latest CommSec State of the State report shows that while the economy had faced national headwinds, business confidence and population stability are still improving. Employment has strengthened and our economic growth ranking has climbed, driven by private investment and new business creation. Retail spending and new dwelling commencements are on the rise and clear signs of renewed momentum. For the first time in years, small business sentiment in the Territory has moved into positive territory, Member for Johnson, with businesses reporting higher turnover expectations and stronger growth confidence than at any point under the previous Labor government. Let's be honest, Madam Speaker, the last 8 years under Labor were lost years for small businesses in the Territory and in particular Wonggurri electorate. Labor talked about supporting local businesses, but in Wonggurri, 𝘉𝘢𝘴𝘪𝘯𝘏 and Muirhead, families saw little more than that red tape, rising costs and the falling confidence. They failed to listen to the business community. They failed to cut the approval times that strangled new projects. They failed to keep our workforce in the Territory driving skilled workers south and leaving our small operators struggling to find staff. Labor promised to make the Territory the easiest place to do business, but under their watch it became the hardest. Businesses told me directly, we need government to get out of the way. Instead, they got layers of regulation, uncertainty and indecision. Madam Speaker, in just 1 year, our country Liberal Party government has restored confidence and that momentum. We have a clear, consistent message. The Territory is open for business again, and through the fast approvals fast-track task force, we've tackled duplication. We've halved approval times and introduced e-lodgement systems that simplify and speed up business applications. We've also delivered tax relief. The Territory now has the highest payroll tax threshold in Australia at $2.5 million, meaning 2/3 of our employers pay no payroll tax at all. That's more money in the hands of small business owners, money they can reinvest into jobs, training and growth. And Madam Speaker, for those businesses I mentioned earlier and for all the other businesses in the Wonggurri electorate, this government is providing pathways to grow and improve those numbers on their balance sheets and have confidence that they can continue to keep their businesses open.
Member for Wonggurri, it's just turned midday. Would you like to conclude your comments?
I'll conclude my comments. I just want to thank all the businesses out there in Wonggurri and thank you for sticking by us. Thank you.